Well, hi, I'm Jessica Hawkins. I am a graphic designer and web designer and an assistant professor of communication at Centenary College. I'm actually one of 4 professors from Centenary College here to talk to you about a new initiative. But first, I want to talk to you about how I see design sparking positive social change. So graphic design is typically associated with glossy magazines or really elaborate advertising campaigns. But increasingly, designers are craving the chance to work with underserved clients and communities to combat complex social problems. We've seen through companies like Apple the power of design to increase revenues for big companies. But for nonprofits and for altruistic initiatives, design just isn't, and sometimes can't be, a top priority. These groups are working with shrinking budgets, with limited personnel. They have a compelling message, but they don't necessarily have a compelling way to share that message. This is an example of some nonprofits that I've worked with to help amplify their message. So the Laundry Love icon is used to designate laundromats in low-income areas where patrons can go get their laundry done for free once a month. Chimphaven's Earth Day Festival needed a clean and contemporary approach to communicate a brand new event. And Center for Families, which offers counseling services to all income levels on a sliding scale, needed a friendlier and more energetic logo to make their services more approachable to potential clients. But design isn't just about applying an attractive veneer, right? Just to gussy things up. Design has the power to spur people to consider new ideas and to act in new ways. Last fall, my public art class identified sustainability as a key issue in the Shreveport-Bossier community. And to make this issue top of mind with area residents, we created a temporary public art installation called Grow More, Waste Less, using moss and trash as our materials. I want to show students and the broader community that design can make the complex clear and do it with empathy and effect. Admittedly, though, design is not the only tool in our toolbox to create change. Over the past year and a half, whether in the events of the Arab Spring or Occupy Wall Street, we've seen smartphones and social technologies empower people. They connect citizens to information, they connect citizens to each other, and in some cases, they connect citizens to resources. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about why this has spurred us, these kind of converging forces have spurred us to start Node. We see an opportunity to engage students in harnessing these emerging technologies to create sustainable social change. So what exactly is Node? Well, as the Oxford Dictionary defines it, node is a point at which lines or pathways intersect or branch, a central or connecting point. We've appropriated this term not just because it sounds techie, which is kind of nice, but also because it addresses convergence on several levels. First, it's students from multiple disciplines coming together to work on a single project. Second, it's the confluence of virtual reality and physical reality through social media and games. And third, it's the intersection and interaction of Centenary students with the broader Shreveport community. Now, students involved in Node will not only explore research and create projects that focus on these interactive transmedia technologies like the internet, like social media, gaming, and mobile devices. They'll also use as a basis for their research the methodologies and theories of sociology, design thinking, rhetoric, and human-computer interaction. To tell you more about the service learning portion, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Michelle Glaros.
Thank you. All right.
The right button.
Nope. Well, don't worry about it. I'll give this to you and I'll talk. How's that? All right, so hi, I'm Michelle Glaros, and I'm, thank you. Excellent. I'm an associate professor at Centenary College in the communication program. And I'm here to talk to you about two pedagogical strategies that we're employing in Node, which is a special kind of class that we are working with at Centenary. It's called a living learning community, and my colleague Lauren Demarath is going to talk to you a little bit about community later on. But the two pedagogical strategies I want to talk about today are service learning and critical media literacy. Node is engaging both of these strategies. Okay. Service learning is an increasingly popular approach to learning and education that combines study with action. It involves students going out into their local communities to apply the skills and knowledge that they're learning back in the classroom, back at colleges and universities, to actual social problems in their communities in an effort to actually affect social change. So it's about problem solving and addressing social problems in one's own community. Service learning aims to engage the tension between private materialism and the public good that has been on the rise culturally in the US since the 1970s, but really in full force coming through the 80s and 90s. Social learning encourages participants to actively question and engage local power relationships and to direct their knowledge and talents towards fostering the public good rather than just towards fostering private materialism. I want to note that service learning differs from some modes of learning or modes of engagement with the community that we're more familiar with, such as community service or volunteering. Those kinds of engagements with the community really are shaped as or framed as charitable acts. That is, acts in which students or people go into the community and volunteer in an attempt to affect some change in that community. Okay. Service learning differs from that in that it's a two-way street. So the idea is that with service learning that not only is the community affected or changed, but that the provider is affected or changed as well. Node is also then a vehicle for teaching critical media literacy, that second pedagogical strategy. Okay? Critical media literacy is a pedagogy that bends the tools of production towards a critical understanding of the way media, especially mass media, replicate dominant ideological ideas while extending and maintaining power relationships. Okay? So rather than just study mass media texts for their expressions of these ideas, critical media literacy promotes learning how it is that the language and rhetorics of media manipulates viewers into thinking and feeling particular ways. And critical media literacy approaches this idea, teaching this idea, by looking at media from the inside out. Okay. So for the inexperienced, critical media analysis often seems like we're reading too much into the text, right? But when participants make media production choices themselves, audience tests them, and then change them to reassess their new effects, they learn the lesson of media critique much more powerfully. Okay, this is what produces critical media literacy. So as both a service learning project and a critical media literacy project, Node serves to show participants how we might invest our developing skills in non-commercial endeavors. By showing participants non-commercial uses for programming, production, and analytic skills, Node aims to promote the public good over private materialism. Because so much media production is geared towards thoughtless entertainment, it is important to engage media students in alternative uses of their talents, and Node aims to engage students in this way. Okay? To talk more about the effectiveness of community engagement and LLCs, living learning communities, I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Lauren Demarath.
So as a sociologist at Centenary, I'm excited about Node and what it can do for society, for communities. Community is really a connection of relationships about which there's shared understanding about what those connections mean. And the benefits of facilitating community are substantial. Urban sociology shows that cities that are more connected do better than cities that are not. Cities that are segmented and fractured and segregated don't do as well as cities that are more integrated and connected. It stands to reason when you know of other people's resources, when you're familiar with them, when you trust them more, you're more likely to share resources and work together and collaborate and invest in each other's projects. It also reflects a common sociological finding that people are better off if they have more and diverse social ties, if their social capital is better. And technology can help that. One of the things that we're working on in Node is connecting students and faculty with a shared interest and developing shared understandings about what those interests are and how they can help community in general. So that's what Node is about. It's also what this group of people were about. This was a group I've worked with, at that point wandering in the wilderness maybe. But this is a little pocket of woods in the midst of the city of Shreveport that we began to meet about, and our efforts became more concentrated, more focused with the help of technology. And we eventually became a group, bettershreveport.org, that is devoted towards discussing ideas about quality of life in the city and externalizing them, sharing those conversations. We've worked on a number of different projects, but the main thing that it's done for us by meeting is connect our interests to each other and seeing the complementarity of those interests. We've been connected to other people, to other organizations, to government agencies and officials who have similar interests in improving the city. We've developed into an official nonprofit organization. There are other nonprofit organizations that have sprung out from us. There's a downtown residents community association. There's a dog park coalition. There's a bicycle co-op group. There we are looking at a map for where the dog park should be. That's probably what we're doing at that point. A variety of projects that we've taken on and also discussions that we've facilitated seeking to connect other people to each other on different projects and topics. So we facilitated discussions on recycling, on downtown revitalization, on educational inequality, on property enforcement, things like that. We have a radio show that we have weekly where we invite guests in to talk about ideas for the city. We've done things like paint bike sharrows on roads that takes you on a route of a city tree tour. We've created a nature trail between schools that's used for outdoor education programs. And we've proposed a system of nature trails and bike paths using existing drainage ditches in our city. And it's all come about by connecting people, really. And what we've begun to see in our organization, I've begun to study it, and other sociologists are studying this type of thing too, of course, how focused interactions lead to meaningful action. So energizing conversations, you're turned on by what they're talking about, they're synergizing with you in a way that seems productive and helpful, leads to more intentional efforts further on, and then meaningful output. And that's what we have in mind with Node as a living learning community, that gathering together people that are interested in the same thing, students and faculty, seeing what resources we have to offer, can lead towards meaningful action. We talk about, in our Node meetings, about all sorts of different kinds of technologies, as you can imagine, that are just emerging. We don't know what the next YouTube or Facebook will be, but we do have a computer scientist on board who's working on a lot of this cutting edge stuff, and he's going to talk about some of that now, Mark Godrich.
I am Mark Godrich. I teach computer science and mathematics at Centenary, and I'm bringing two pieces to our puzzle of Node. First, I teach my students computer science mainly through using mobile applications and tangible computing. I want my students to see a connection between what they do and how they program the computer and things that they see in their everyday life. In the summer of 2010, I worked with some students on programming an app called Faraphone. In Fairphone, users of this app could leave anonymous messages at certain locations wherever they were, and these messages would decay and spread out over time, similar to how pheromones are used in ants for communication. We were interested in studying this new method of communication with geolocation of the phones and seeing what kind of collective problem solving people could do if they had this new mode of communication. Computer science can be seen as a problem-solving domain. It's a tool that you can use to work in lots of other domains on interesting problems. Particularly, we have seen advances in medicine and biology through the use of computing towards the large amounts of data that are being generated, and we're understanding much more about biology through the use of computing as a tool to sift through a lot of those things. I also have a background in designing games, board games and card games. And game design can also be seen as a problem-solving tool. But the problem you're trying to solve is, how do I make a fun and interesting and exciting and meaningful interaction among people? How does that happen? In working with Node, we'll be expanding our intersections among the students and working through all the different fields that we have. And the main question that I'm trying to look at and see what happens is trying to see, how can we use computer science and game design as a tool for social change? There is a nonprofit called Games for Change in New York, founded in 2004. And Games for Change has the philosophy of creating and distributing social impact games. They're bringing together multiple stakeholders from different environments, incubating games, providing incentives and funding, and an annual festival of games that are inspiring social change. Two examples are particularly inspiring us for what could happen and what we want to happen with the merging of our technologies in Node. The first game to talk about is a game called Spent. In this game, you are an unemployed worker trying to find a job. You have $1,000 in your bank account, and you have to make it to the end of the month with a positive balance in your bank account. It's a simulation of the choices someone in this situation has to go through on a day-to-day basis. Will you buy healthy groceries this week, or will you spend that money on gasoline? Will you go to the doctor, or will you decide to not go to the doctor and try to buy groceries this week? How those changes come about, the simulation helps you see what a person in that situation is able to do with the amount of resources they have. It is a hard, challenging game to make it all the way to the end. It is an opportunity for the urban ministries of Durham, North Carolina, that this game was designed for, a nonprofit in North Carolina. It's an opportunity for them to expose people to the challenges that they are working with and the change that they're trying to make in their community. It provides a way for them to inspire people to donate, but it also makes meaningful change in the people who play the game. You are experiencing the same choices that some people in the poverty are going through, and you're able to make a difference in how you reason about the world and your environment. A second game was called World Without Oil. This one was in 2007, created by Ken Eklund, and for 1 month, players participated in a simulated oil crisis. There was a website, announcements of what was happening with oil, how much gas would cost this week, and players were invited to blog and create videos, create voicemails, create emails as how they would react to this situation. Each week the game would react and change differently depending on what people were doing in their local community to deal with this crisis. How were they changing transportation? How were they dealing with different things being more expensive? What commodities would change? All those factors were coming into this game in simulation. People were going through that experience in a simulated way. the multiplicity of the viewpoints coming together from all these players, about 2,000 players, and the different collective ideas that they were able to experience through the technology of the website created a number of new solutions, a number of interesting perspectives that people had not thought about in an oil crisis before. And it was reported by the players, even months after they played this game, they were making changes in their routines. They were now making different choices about how to use their resources that they have, directly because of their experiences working with this game. So these two examples are some inspirations for us that help merge together our 4 strengths and make a great experience for our students to start learning this stuff as they go through college. Node at Centenary for us is a meaningful intersection of technology, community, design, and social change, and seeing what can happen with them. Our students are transforming themselves from just consumers of digital technology into creators of new and meaningful experiences that can directly affect change in their environments and in the local communities. We're excited by the possibilities of what is going to happen and look forward to sharing those experiences with you and working with you to affect some social change. Thank you very much for your time.